Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, my fellow Chiebits. Today, I'm here to bring you a weekly anime review on Fairy Tail 2014. Even though we're in 2015, it's still Fairy Tail 2014. So, anyways, this episode of Fairy Tail is starting to ramp up this arc quite a bit. The Sun Village arc is starting to heat up. We have a bunch of battles starting to take place in this episode, and mainly getting to see a lot of different setup points in this episode, along with a surprising character making an introduction in this episode. Flare makes a return. And that right there is probably going to be a big topic of discussion, I know, in the comments. I know a couple of Chiebits are probably going to mention that. So Flare makes an appearance and saves Lucy in this episode right at the end. Like, she blocks the bullet, and then she saves Lucy and Wendy, and then that little segment ends in this part of the episode. So, yeah, if you know, at the end of the Grand Magic Games, I remember it was shown quite a few times, and especially in the filler segments too, Flare was stalking Lucy in the Grand Magic Games. Like, after the Grand Magic Games, if you watch closely, you saw Flare constantly staring at Lucy around the corner. We saw that about 3 times, I think, in the Grand Magic Games arc. And so, clearly, Flare is there probably being a stalker or whatever she was possibly doing, but a lot of questions are raised of why Flare is here in the first place. You have Erza versus Minerva fight going on in this episode, which I will get into in just a moment. And then you also have it to where Natsu has been shrunken down like a kid alongside of Erza, and he is running away from this dude that doesn't seem to be human at all. And that's kind of what this episode is setting up. So before I get into the Minerva and Erza fight, or the Natsu and that unhuman creature type dude is, I'm going to talk about Wendy, Flare, and Lucy's little fight first. So in the episode, Flare makes an appearance and saves Lucy and Wendy, and they're going to be going up against this treasure hunting guild. And this treasure hunting guild is pretty crusty. Like, they're pretty fucking assholic. Like, they're assholes from what we see in this episode. They start cutting up the giants. Like, you saw how that one dude, he sliced a big chunk out of the giant's leg or whatever, and when he starts stabbing the giant, and that right there is just very messed up, very fucked up, and you can tell that this treasure guild is just assholes. They're straight up assholes. And they won the Grand Secret Treasure Hunting Games. I think that's what it was called in this episode. So we come to find out that other different organizations and guilds, like not just entirely magic, like, you know, wizard guilds and stuff like that, treasure hunting guilds also have like grand games, you know, like the Grand Magic Games. That's kind of cool. We found out a little bit more about the world aspect of Fairy Tail, and it makes you wonder what other type of things go on with events with these grand games and stuff like that. But this guild, this treasure hunting guild, won the Grand Treasure Hunting Games, or whatever it's called, and you have to wonder, like, okay, so they're probably one of the strongest when it comes to getting treasure, and are they really gonna be strong at the end of the day? Let's be real here. They don't really have any magic. They seem to have some form of magic weapons. Do you really believe that these people stand a chance against Lucy, Wendy, and Flare? Really? I mean, we'll have to see. We'll have to see where that goes. And then you have the little segment with Natsu versus whoever this dude is that was shown his full face, and he doesn't seem to be human in this episode. And you're wondering, like, okay, so this dude has a weird magic power. He's able to shrink down people. I'm guessing we don't know exactly how he does it, but if you're in a certain range radius of him, he can shrink you down. And when he does, he has it to where you turn into a kid, and it's like he regresses your magic to a state to where you can't use it. Even though Natsu, at a kid, when he was at that small age, he could use magic, it's not necessarily like changing him back in time. Like, there's time manipulation magic to where it manipulates people to where their, like, bodies, you know, de-age and they go young again. And then there's magic that just kind of, you know, regresses their bodies and the magic they use. And that's kind of what this dude used. He didn't really use, like, de-aging, like where he made them young again. He just made it to where he regressed their magic capabilities. And now Natsu and, as you can see, Erza cannot use their magic at all in this episode. So it's going to be quite an uneven fight if you think about it, because Erza is going to be going up against Minerva. That was quite a rough battle in the Grand Magic Games. If you remember, in the Grand Magic Games, Minerva was holding her own against Erza. They're beating the fucking shit out of each other in the Grand Magic Games, and then eventually Erza won, but it was still a pretty close battle. And so you have to wonder, how is Erza going to fight Minerva if she can't really use magic? Like, she was barely able to bring out her sword, so what the fuck is gonna happen? A lot of questions right there. And then also, Natsu was saying he was hearing a voice in this episode, too. Like, when the moon drip was crushed in the episode, when the jar crushed and shattered, we come to find out that that moon drip is not enough to undo all the ice. But whatever it did, it was able to reveal a voice. Like, Natsu was able to hear a voice through the ground. And now, what is this voice that Natsu is hearing? That's the big question we have to wonder. Was it the dude that Natsu was, you know, kind of running away from this episode, or was it something else? We have to question that right now. So a lot of setup is going on in this episode of Fairy Tail, and I personally enjoyed it. I mean, the music is pretty nice, and that's actually something I want to point out. I'm liking the new soundtrack that's been done in this new season of Fairy Tail. Like, you know, this Sun Village arc that we're getting into right now. I'm loving the music. The soundtrack is spot fucking on. Like, I am really interested to hear some of the soundtracks later on when we get into some really epic battles. I'm willing to bet we're going to have some crazy battle soundtracks. I cannot wait to hear some of those stuff, because with the music in this episode, it's very eerie, very creepy, and it felt like the standard Fairy Tail music we heard in the past, in the previous seasons, but it had this different vibe about it. Like, it had this creepy vibe, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what other type of soundtracks we are going to get through this arc. So let me know your thoughts. Did you enjoy this episode of Fairy Tail? Did you hate this episode of Fairy Tail? How do you feel about all the setups? How do you feel about Minerva versus Erza? How do you feel about Lucy, Wendy, and Flare versus the Treasure Hunting Guild? And how do you feel about Natsu just running away trying to find a voice? Let me know your thoughts. Y'all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.